The Wii is a bad console with no games. This is what a fool sounds like, and I am no fool. Hey everyone, John from Nintendo Live here, and I look at my Wii games and I say, why aren't you on the Switch? Some of them are. No More Heroes is, Skyward Sword is, but not enough of them are. So today, we are going to list the 14 Wii games that we really want to see ported to Nintendo Switch. Let's not waste time. Get in there.
Wait, this game exists? Yeah, believe it or not, Mario Galaxy had a sequel. At the time, this was unprecedented. We expected our 3D Mario on every Nintendo platform, and that was it for the entire generation. Move on, wait for the next console. But then in came Mario Galaxy 2. It looks just like the first game and didn't reinvent the wheel, but they had too many ideas to not make this game. And even though it's so similar, it really is distinct to Mario Galaxy 1. Every single level feels fully justified, and even though we've already played dozens upon dozens in the first game, somehow this still makes a really fresh impression on you. And it's not just because Yoshi's in it, but partly because, yeah, Yoshi's in it, and even Yoshi has power-ups upon being a power-up. Mario Galaxy 2 is just so good. Many consider it better than the first game, and while I'm not entirely sure where I land, I think they coexist so perfectly. I can't really imagine one without the other, which is kind of weird because, well, this. But Mario Galaxy 2 is one of the very best games ever made and a quintessential Wii game. We know it can work. Please, please do it.
Excitebots, baby!
I'm here to report a crime. Nintendo thought Europe wouldn't want this game. Nintendo, I speak for all of Europe where I say we want you in jail. Excitebots is one of the most imaginative and wacky and out there and just pure fun racers ever made. It's so good. It's a sequel to Excite Truck, but far more wacky. While you're driving along, you might be bowling or throwing darts or just spinning through the sky at outrageous speeds and heights. Everything good about Excite Truck is here, but just turn to the next level. And this game even had online, so you can play against, well, not the rest of the world, but you can play against America and Japan. It was missing the custom MP3 songs of Excite Truck, and by the way, those were awesome. But other than that, it's better than Excite Truck in pretty much every conceivable way. Excitebots rocks. It's easily the best game in the Excite series, and if you're not playing it right now, right this instant, then I'm going to come over to your house and put it in your Wii. You can't stop me. So why would Nintendo put a game called Wii Sports on the Switch? Well, why would they put a game called New Super Mario Bros. U on the Switch? We're past asking questions. We got a little taste, just a little slither of Wii Sports in Clubhouse games. You probably know the golf courses in Wii Sports are from the NES golf game, and that's exactly true in Clubhouse games as well. It's like a shared golfing universe. We even got a very similar style of bowling, but just the raw Wii Sports experience still has so much value. We actually got a remaster/sequel on the Wii U with Wii Sports Club, and this made the games HD for the first time, and every single sport had Wii Motion Plus controls, and it even had online play. Not many people gave it a go, but Wii Sports Club was awesome. The Joy-Con can pretty much do anything a Wii Motion Plus controller can do, and no sport in Wii Sports relies on pointing, so it wouldn't even be a downgrade in any respect. Heck, it could even be a compilation of Wii Sports and Wii Sports Resort. Imagine going on holiday somewhere nice and sunny and just pulling out the Switch and playing on Woohoo Island while you're on an island. That's the dream. The original NES Punch-Out is perhaps the best aged game on that platform. It still plays so well, it's a timeless game. But then Next Level Games took the structure and made it look beautiful. This was the game that put them on the radar for their animation prowess. Every character is so quirky and emotive, and that makes figuring out their weaknesses a joy. It's incredibly well choreographed and telegraphed, and while the gameplay may have not really changed since the NES, that's okay, that's a good thing. Now there aren't that many new characters, so from a content perspective, it is very similar to the original game. But there's a certain joy and charm to that, just seeing everything we loved in the past reimagined in such a beautiful light. It's crazy to think this game was 12 years ago. In a couple of years, the Punch-Out drought will be almost as long as it was before Punch-Out Wii came along. We recently did a video praising the original N64 Sin and Punishment, and while we didn't really talk about Successor of the Stars, this game is bonkers good. The original game's crazy and off the walls, and it's constantly moving and exploding, and every part of that's true here, but the control scheme is like moving through the clouds. It is so fast and fluid, and you still get that grounded feel of controlling a character with the nunchuck, but as you're moving around, pointing and shooting and even slashing, feels incredible. This is the exact same control scheme as Kid Icarus Uprising's flight section, so imagine an entire game of that. It's what a lot of Kid Icarus fans wanted, and it's right here in Sin and Punishment 2. Treasure are responsible for Radiant Silvergun and Ikaruga, so they know what they're doing with this genre, and seeing it evolved into 3D is a pure delight. Both Sin and Punishment 1 and 2 are some of the best in the entire genre, and must-plays. If you've got a Wii or a Wii U, you have no excuse. Buy Sin and Punishment 2. And again, I'm gonna come to your house. I'm gonna make you play it.
The House of the Dead. Overkill.
Is that how the guy sounds? I can't remember, but the Wii had a brilliant House of the Dead run. We were in a time of CRT transition. Light guns were no longer working on our flat displays, so the Wii got House of the Dead 2 and 3 in their raw state but with Wii Remote pointing, and it was such a great way of preserving those games. But then in came an entire sequel with House of the Dead Overkill. This is technically like House of the Dead 5, and it takes a very different tonal direction to the previous games. Instead of unintentionally being a campy B-movie kind of game, it's gone full in. What we end up with is a very entertaining and gory game. I will say though, one thing the Wii doesn't do so great is perform. This game stutters and drops frames all the time. It's still perfectly fun, but pretty much any time you go to a new scene, you just get this little stutter every now and then. So if this were to come to the Switch, that would resolve that problem. And heck, the Switch is getting a House of the Dead 1 remake, so if that does well, perhaps Overkill could come too. There's even already an HD version of Overkill, as PC got the typing of the Dead Overkill, and the PlayStation 3 got House of the Dead Overkill for the PlayStation Move. So that HD build is definitely out there. And while I don't think you can really improve upon Wii Remote aiming, I'd still like it on modern consoles in some capacity. Maybe even have USB keyboard support. Kirby's Epic Yarn was given a second chance on the 3DS, and while that was neat, we really want to see this game in high definition. Epic Yarn is still a gorgeous game, not just the art style, but the way everything kind of morphs. Like you pull on part of the environment and it just kind of seamlessly creases everything. It looks great. This was a Kirby game not made by HAL, but rather Goodfeel, the guys behind Yoshi's Crafted World and Yoshi's Woolly World. But Epic Yarn is such a unique Kirby game, and a big reason of that is there's no copy abilities. Kirby can't even suck in this game. You will transform into things as levels go on, but the core Kirby gameplay is very different to what you'd expect. It's a great co-op game too, especially for younger players or parents playing with their children, and to have that on Switch with just a single Joy-Con would make so much sense. And let's be honest, did it really have a second life on 3DS? It came out when no one wanted it. Tatsunoko vs Capcom Ultimate All-Stars. I remember being really excited for this game, and I didn't even know what a Tatsunoko was. It originally released exclusively in Japan and eventually got localized, but there was a time where the Switch didn't have any Street Fighter. While 360 and PlayStation 3 got Street Fighter 4, we got Tatsunoko vs Capcom. Perhaps not the bigger deal, but still an awesome deal all the same. This is one of my favourite Capcom vs games. It plays incredibly well, and the Tatsunoko cast, while I may not know who they are still really interesting. I can now meet Tatsunoko fans and say names like Ken the Eagle, and Jun the Swan, and Gold Lighten, and they would nod and say yes, you are one of us, even though I am not one of you. I have deceived you all. The Capcom cast is great too. Ryu, Chun-Li, Mega Man Volnut, Roll, Beautiful Joe, Frank West. It really is the Wii's best fighting game, and while licensing this one for a re-release would probably be quite tough, I still want to see it happen. The Last Story. So nowadays, Xenoblade Chronicles is a rather big name, but at the time, it was a struggle to even get it localized. Xenoblade, The Last Story, and Pandora's Tower were Operation Rainfall. Get these big, Nintendo-published Japanese games out of Japan and bring them to the West, and surprisingly, after a lot of demand, Nintendo listened. The Last Story and Pandora's Tower are both still stuck on the Wii unfortunately, and while either game would be great on Switch, The Last Story has quite a bit of pedigree. This came from Sakaguchi, the creator of Final Fantasy, as you can probably guess by the name The Last Story. Developer Mistwalker made a crazy ambitious RPG for the system, and it's easily one of the best looking games on the Wii. It'll probably need a bit of touching up, but the controls themselves were not motion reliant, so bringing them to the Switch shouldn't be that tough. We just really hope this game isn't lost to time, because The Last Story and Pandora's Tower deserve to be played. Boom Blocks, led by Steven Spielberg. Okay. Now, I love the Wii, but I was very ingrained in its culture and I knew of most of the good games. But if you weren't in that bubble, then you probably played a lot of bad Wii games. And Boom Blox probably looks like one of the more shovelware ones. But that's where you'll be wrong, never doubt the Spielberg. It's a very simple physics game where you rotate around in 3D space and throw balls at Jenga kind of towers. You want to topple them down as efficiently as possible and drop and crush all the orbs. And that's pretty much the entire objective of the game. But the way it's executed and the level of polish is so high. It really did put other family Wii games to shame. Very unexpected for what it is, but Boom Blox is indeed one of the very best games on the entire system. It's up there with Nintendo's best, and we would love it to come to Switch. You do control the game with a pointer, but there's no reason that couldn't be touch or even just analog sticks. We'd just love for more people to experience Boom Blox. It really is much, much better and more ambitious than it seems. Klonoa! I'll take any moment to praise the good name of Klonoa. If you're a Kirby fan, then I'm telling you now, you're probably also a Klonoa fan. You just don't know it yet. The games aren't that similar, but they have a certain shared DNA that I think many Kirby fans would latch onto. The Wii game's a remake of the PlayStation Classic, and while many later games like Donkey Kong Country Returns are credited for being 2.5D and having interactable foregrounds and backgrounds, Klonoa did that way back on the original PlayStation. You move from left to right, but everything you see is in a full 3D world, so sometimes you wrap around environments and go up and down, and you can even interact with the background. Klonoa's main ability is you can grab enemies, and using them, you can either jump off them, or you can throw them. And when throwing them, you can go left and right, or right into the background. It's a really clever system, and the game's always finding new and interesting ways to utilize it. Klonoa's been around for years, but since this game released, 12 years ago? Geez, good lord. I don't think there's been a single Klonoa game. There have been trademarks and rumors, but Klonoa has been left in the dust, unfortunately. But there's always a chance. Would love to see Klonoa 2 as well, but this game really does deserve far more fans. I think it could be a relatively big series, and many Nintendo fans I know would adore this. Look how good this game looks! This is Wario, with anime. Why wasn't that the box quote? If good feel are good at anything, it's definitely art styles, making a Kirby game out of yarn or a Yoshi game out of wool. But with Wario Land, there wasn't really a theme, they just made this beautifully hand-drawn 2D game. It looks like a cartoon in motion, it's stunning. Now it is technically 4x3 unfortunately, and I'm not sure there's really a fix for that. But if it were to come to the Switch, imagine it in widescreen. It's been a long time since Wario Land's had anything, and this was the last main Wario Land game. Bringing it back to the Switch would be a great way to reintroduce the franchise. And quite a few people slept on this one at the time. I think they just kind of saw it as a 2D, lesser game, but it's so much more than that. And while shaking is a core mechanic, the Joy-Con can replicate that, but also there's no reason it couldn't just be a button press or a button mash. This would be right at home on the Switch. Then there's Silent Hill: Shattered Memories, a really interesting game in the franchise. Silent Hill had hit after hit, the first game, the amazing second game, the amazing third game. But as time went on, quality started to dwindle a bit, and so Konami took the franchise back to its roots, in a way. Shattered Memories is a reimagining of the first Silent Hill, but in terms of gameplay, this is something entirely different. For one, there's no combat at all, you just run from enemies and shake them off. It's very different to prior games, and that gives it a great personality. And one thing I love, the torch, the flashlight. Shattered Memories was also a PlayStation 2 and PSP game, but on Wii, you can point and move the torch around in real time, and shine it on anything, and everything kind of casts a shadow. It looks gorgeous and feels great to move around. And while the pointer would be a bit less accurate on the Switch, they could always do the PlayStation 2 control scheme as well. And imagine being grabbed by monsters with HD rumble and sort of feeling them rumble at different parts of the controller. That could be really cool too. You would lose the Wii Remote speaker, which honestly was used really well in the original. Like you get phone calls and then they'll talk to you through the Wii speaker, but that isn't a massive deal, even if it was pretty cool on the Wii. It's a pretty expensive game to collect for today, so hopefully this one does get re-released at some point in the future. And ending off is Madworld from Platinum Games. The Wii was largely known for family stuff, jumping around as a gingerbread man, that kind of thing. But then in came Madworld, a game with no colour apart from the colour red. The game has this gorgeous sort of graphic novel noir style, but it's accentuated by blood. Like, the gore and the violence of this game speaks volumes because it's the only color you see. But man, imagine this on the Swiitch OLED. All the blacks being pure black, and the vibrance of the blood. It'll look fascinating. If you're a fan of arcadey beat-em-ups, then Madworld is a brilliant evolution of that kind of style. You move around these levels racking up points by killing people in the most violent ways possible, finding items and traps and just demolishing everyone with them. And then they culminate in these boss fights, which are also really cool. And there's a bunch of variety levels too, like racing down the speedway on your motorcycle. It's just a really varied and fun game, and there's still nothing like it out there. And plus, Bender from Futurama is a voice in this game, so you know it's pretty good.
So what do you think about this list? This video was adapted from an article on NintendoLife.com, so if you aren't satisfied, if there's a game that's missing that you really want to see, let us know in the comments below or in the comments on NintendoLife.com. I want to see My Life as a King, so here it is. It's a good game. Anyway, thank you for watching, and let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and of course go to that subscribe button and point at it, and slash at it, and stab at it, because the Wii is great for stabbing. And we'll see you next time. Bye everyone.